I've been here the whole time. We've been sitting here that night. Nice chairs.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is nice.
Will Wilkins!
Thanks, Christian, for having me come up here. I didn't expect this. This was nothing prepared, so quickly I slapped together a presentation, and hopefully, hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much. But my name is Will Wilkins. I'm a native Southern California guy, and I've been interested in weather since childhood. Like Christian said earlier, I don't know if there was a point in time that actually defined the moment I said, "Holy crap! I like storms." I don't know when that was, but I do remember probably the most pivoting moment of my life that just made me completely fascinated with storms was I was a sophomore in high school, and there was a monsoon thunderstorm that came off the mountains. At the time, I lived in a town called Azusa, California, and it was right next to the San Gabriel Mountains. Azusa was famous in the news a few months ago. It was a big wildfire went through there, Glendora and Azusa, and burned a lot of homes and stuff. And those neighborhoods that burned, I actually knew people that lived in those homes, and they don't live there anymore. But it was pretty disheartening to see that. But anyway, that storm that came up the San Gabriel Mountains at one time had a lot of lightning, had all the characteristics of a typical monsoon storm, hail, lightning, high winds, and it was probably the defining moment. So I was 16 years old. As soon as I got my license, just like Christian's mom said, "Hey, why don't we go drive to the storms?" So as soon as I got my license, I started thinking to myself, maybe that's what I'll do. But I confined my area pretty close to, close to home. I didn't go too far out. And as years went on, I started noticing, and this was back in the 1980s. Okay, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I know it. I go back to the mid 80s in my storm chasing, and so 1984 was the first year that I really took a complete interest in getting out and actually chasing beyond my little comfort zone of about 10 miles. And I started chasing around the Mojave Desert. Now, how does the monsoon, relate to, in Southern California, how it relates to Arizona? Well, like gentleman earlier, and I apologize for not remembering his name, but he described how Southeast California gets the monsoon influence, just like perimeters of Utah and New Mexico. So having said that, Southeast California gets a lot of monsoon activity, probably about 70% as much as Arizona does. And I've kept detailed records going back, what we know as blogs today on the internet, and I was doing everything, in pen and paper. So having said that, just a little quick bio about myself. I probably explained myself a lot already, but native Southern California. I currently live in Lake Elsinore, California, which is in western Riverside County. When I went to college, I originally had a geology major, and I loved camping and fishing and weather, and geology was being out in the outdoors and looking at rocks and stuff, and it just kind of went together. So, but then I realized at one point that, wow, geology wasn't going to make me a lot of money, so I switched my interest to IT, computer engineering, and so, but my love for weather and geology never faded. But I was able to career-wise take on a different avenue instead of taking on something science-minded. Like I said, I first began storm chasing in 1984 during the monsoon season, but I was doing it sporadically. 2003, I took it to an obsession level. That's when money, career, everything kind of fell in place that I could go out and do it more often. So 2003, I was chasing just about every single weather event, and weather, I mean, not just the monsoon, but winter events, during the winter time, because we get influenced by El Nino. We get all the flooding that you hear about in the news all the time in California. Breaking off into the ocean and all that stuff. I started live streaming my chases in 2008. I got hooked up with a group called Severe Studios, and they, at the time, they were kind of like the emerging storm chasing streaming company. There's several other companies kind of evolved since then. You know, there was Split Away, Breakaway, and all this other stuff, and some of you already know. There's Chaser TV, there's TBN Weather, and then there's a few other little independents out there. But and I've been streaming all my chases, virtually every single chase since then. So in 2009, I took my first plains storm chase trip. And why it took that long, a lot of it had to do with money and availability, time, and technology. Because it wasn't until about 2008, 2009 when mobile technology, streaming, internet access became widely available and affordable. So it enabled me to go even beyond the monsoon territory and go out and do what everybody else was doing as well on the plains. My second day getting out there, this is what I got. Elephant trunk tornado in Haskell County, Kansas.
Lucky dog.
Second day, I had never been to the plains, but I think maybe it's because I had a lot of experience. I was doing a lot of research, understanding stuff. I made a lot of friends that taught me a lot. I had a lot of resources available that helped me be able to target storms and get to the right place at the right time. And with the background. So this was my how you want to say, my trophy, you know, second day out. And the funny thing about it was, this was at the time when the show Storm Chasers was being filmed. And they were on the storm, and the TIV is right there in the lower hand corner, and those two headlights coming up on me. That's Sean Casey and his TIV coming toward me while I'm on this storm. As they pass me, they take this shot. That's me standing, taking a picture of that tornado, that same picture as they pass me. And they freaking used that shot in their trailer for that episode, which was episode 7 in 2009. So when I was sitting there on the TV and I saw the trailer, I was like, oh yeah, because I knew that they were going to do the storm on that episode 7. And as soon as I saw the trailer and I saw this, I just fell out of my chair. I was just laughing. It was just funny. So my cameo appearance, oh, you can't see my face, but I knew that's me because I had a trailblazer at the time. So I knew that was me. But that's me. So anyway, I'm going to speed it up here because I don't want to take too much time. But in Southeast California, what ends up happening is that the monsoon flow tends to wobble back and forth. Sometimes it'll go into New Mexico and Arizona, and Southern California will get dry. Then it starts shifting back toward the west, and Arizona gets everything, and then you get the position of that high that brings in that flow, and it's more directed into Southeast California. And the typical period is early July to mid-September. That's the range. There are 4 zones there, and I figured this out. There are 4 zones that will have storms. It's the Mojave Desert, which we call the high desert in Southern California. The Colorado Desert, which is in the low desert, named after, I think, the Colorado River Valley there. Then the mountain ranges, the transverse and southern mountain ranges that go up from east of San Diego up into LA County. And then there's an area called the Inland Empire. The Inland Empire is basically the cities of San Bernardino and Riverside. And it's a little valley area between the mountain ranges. It's like this little isolated area that has this prolific characteristic of creating severe weather during the most intense monsoon surges. And because of that, because of the terrain, because of the mountains, these convergence zones get formed. And these convergence zones are very similar to what you hear in Denver. You got the Palmer Divide, the Cheyenne Divide going up into Wyoming and stuff like that. Well, these convergence zones are probably the component that is why we get storms there. If it wasn't for those convergence zones, I think the storms would be more pop up and they'd sit and they just kind of not do too much. But because these convergence zones, they get we get a little bit more exciting weather, and I'll show you some examples and some pictures. But our typical weather modes, like everywhere else here in Arizona too, lightning, hail, flash flood, wind, and we get quite often funnel clouds and landspout tornadoes. I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but Oklahoma only had like 4 or 5 tornadoes this year. California had 11. But these were cold core setups during the wintertime. These weren't monsoon type tornadoes. But it just goes to show you just how California, how much more active California can be than, you know, than people realize. This is the Inland Empire region of Southeast California. It's basically the area that's the Santa Ana mountain range, which is right here. There's a peak that's almost 6,000 feet. It's called Santiago Peak. And then you got the mountain ranges out there by the San Jacinto Range, the San Gorgonio Range, which really actually is the San Bernardino Range. I don't know why they labeled like that. And then the San Gables. And this red shaded area is the area known as the Inland Empire. Those red arrows depict the flow. There's 2 distinct flows, and it all depends on the position of that high sits over the 4 corners. If it's a little bit south, we'll get more of a southeast flow. If it's a little bit further north, we get an east flow. That position is critical because if the flow is more easterly, then you've got to have a little bit more low-level moisture to get storms going. The southeast flow, a little more favorable, but then storms can get destroyed because of the onshore push from the ocean, which is another phenomenon which helps create the convergence zone that I'm about to show you. Right here, these are the convergence zones in Southeast California. Now, there's several of them because of the mountains, but the main one, and it's this guy right here. I don't have a laser pointer, but the Elsinore Convergence Zone, which literally splits the Inland Empire in half. And what ends up happening is that you got the flow, the ocean flow that comes in down near San Diego comes in from the south, and then you got the flow that comes in from Orange County that comes through the north. And when those two clash together in the Lake Elsinore region, where the air has been cooking at 100, 105 degrees during the summer, that cooler air hits it, heats that up, and it gets launched straight up, 10,000, 20,000 feet in the air. Elsinore Convergence Zone. I got a better graphic here that'll show. Let's see. Yeah, right here. Now these arrows right here depict where the ocean flow is coming. Right down here is, there's a town called Oceanside right here, and there's the San Luis Rey River Valley comes through here, and the air gets pulled in because it gets so hot right here, it's like a vacuum effect. It could be 100, 105, 110 degrees over here, and it's only like 75 degrees on right over here. Well, this air is like a sucking effect. Pulls the air this way, and same over here. And this is coming from LA County, Orange County, goes through a canyon called the Santa Ana River Canyon here through the town of Corona, and then gets pulled in over here. And this is where it clashes. Lake Elsinore and Paris get more severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings than just about anywhere in Southern California because of that convergence zone. And because of that, this is my area that I chase the most. I live actually right here. There's a little community right in here, so I'm like within 15 minutes. I don't even have to do anything. It's like what Christian said earlier. Sometimes you can just sit there and wait, and then you just, okay, now you go. And that's what I usually do. I don't usually have to plan hours in advance and try to sit, I can just wait, and I see the towers going up, and I look at the satellite, and I look at models and stuff, and then I say, okay, now I go. And then within 10 minutes, I'm on the storm, and wonderful things happen. So this is what happens when you get the Elsinore Convergence Zone to, this is what happens when you get the Elsinore Convergence Zone to go. You get storms that start to spin. Because of the air, you get the right shear and everything. This was on Riverside. This was over the city of Riverside on August 29th last summer. This storm was trying to produce a tornado. This was a legitimate barber pole updraft with a wall cloud underneath it, and my jaw just hit the floor when I saw this happening. On the right-hand side there, you could call that the RFD. This is the clear slot over here, and basically what happened was the storm wasn't really moving, it was sitting in place, and it was dumping and dumping. It dumped like 6.5 inches of rain in one hour. One of the gauges at UC Riverside recorded 6.5 inches of rain in about, actually I think it was 30 minutes. Did a lot of damage, power was out, flooded downtown Riverside, did all kinds of crazy stuff. This happened the next day over the town of Paris, nearby. Same setup, parameters were exactly the same, just a little bit to the south. Beautiful storm. I'm still trying to figure out what this was. It looked like a wall cloud to me. It actually had rotation, but it was so close to that down, that rain core and that hail core coming down. It was, I couldn't tell if that was really maybe like a shelf, but it was rotating. Here's a close-up shot of that. So that was amazing to see. This also was a few minutes later after that. This actually ended up being a legitimate wall cloud that was rotating. I got video of it, and it was just spinning, and it was spinning. Little finger funnels were coming off of it, and what ended up happening was it was pulling in another storm that's out of view to the right, and when those things came together, it turned into a big HP monster. It flooded the Paris area, and cars were trapped, and it was a big mess. On August 17, 2012, along the Elstern Convergence Zone, this happened. This was a wall cloud with a area of rotation in it that I got. It was definitely rotating. They actually considered warning this. I think I was on the phone with NWS in San Diego. They had considered warning it, but since I couldn't confirm any frontal clouds, they didn't do anything. Now, the Mojave Desert, real quick, is another area. This happened on July 22nd. This was a legitimate supercell. There's a convergence zone that, if I go back to the other map, it's called the El Mirage Convergence Zone. It acts like almost like a dry line effect. And on this day, there was just enough shear, just enough mid-level shear, and just enough like an LLJ that was coming out of the south that it started to spin, and you had a nice little supercell characteristic right here. Wall cloud, I don't know if you can see it, it was a wall cloud off to the right there. There was some scud pulling in over here. This thing was amazing to see, and I got great video of it. This is a close-up of that wall cloud. I'm on State Route 58 going westbound out of Barstow into the storm, and my jaw was just hit the floor seeing this. So I've got some friends that are storm chasers that were in the area as well, and they're very experienced plains chasers, and they couldn't believe what they were seeing. This was a legitimate supercell, and even I think National Weather Service was freaking out. Now, this was actually about an hour before that event on another storm on the same day. But another wall cloud, that day was it was like almost every single cell that day in that area. This was about maybe 20 miles further to the east. This was rotating, it had a wall cloud. I could see it just over the horizon, and I just couldn't believe what I was looking at, so I got some pictures to document that. This happened a month later. This is near Lancaster, California, on the western side of the Mojave Desert. This storm also rotated. It had minimal supercell characteristics. You can kind of see a very messy inflow coming in this way, but it was so hyper-sick that we couldn't see any details of off into the core, whether there are any wall clouds. But National Weather Service kept their eye on the storm. They had it severe warned. I think radar was estimating almost 3 inches diameter hail in it. It was nasty, but I could never catch up to it. It was actually moving way faster than I can go. Now, back in 2012, on the eastern Mojave Desert, near a town called Ludlow, which is along Interstate 40, I came across this. It was one of the most amazing downbursts that I had ever seen, because the setting sun, this hardly was enhanced at all. I think I did a little bit of contrast boosting on it just to get some detail, but this was amazing. And National Weather Service in Oxnard has this picture on a lot of their training materials. End of 2012, I was on a storm. This was a storm that lasted like for 8 hours. It ended up being a cyclic supercell that started off in the northern part of there's a military area north of Barstow. The name escapes me now, but the storm started there and it traversed south toward 29 Palms, and like 7-8 hours, cyclic life cycle. It was just totally amazing. Now I'm getting to some of my it's a tough act to follow with Brian and Mike, but with their lightning shots. But This was a lightning shot I got back in 2009 near Needles. It was near the Arizona border. Here's another shot that I got back in this was in 2012. Yes. Okay, all right. Real quick, I'll just go through these real quick. That I believe they call that a positive lightning strike because of the way it's coming out of the storm like that. This one was taken in my backyard in 2005 during a late monsoon season MCS that came through. Some men made us. This was taken over Paris, looking east toward Palm Springs. I couldn't believe it when I saw this. I'm going, am I in Kansas? This is just was amazing. I took this shot last summer over a town called Hellendale, which is just north of Victorville, and beautiful setting sun on this storm. So the hail, that we can get hail like this. This is just a screen capture of my video back in 2011 near a place called Lake Los Angeles. Flash flooding, this was last summer. The Morongo Valley, big flash flood came across, and this guy, this idiot, I don't know what he was thinking, but everybody had to come to his rescue and push him out. It was just a mess. Look at the line of cars. It was just, it was...
Is that from a burn scar?
Yes, it was a burn scar. We had remnants of a tropical storm that actually came in this day, and it just dumped tremendous amounts of rain. Microbursts. The Lake Elsinore area is famous for its microbursts, and this happened in 2010. This is a screen capture from my video, and the microbursts, they had 90-mile-an-hour winds, and it took out like a mile long of power poles. So, and then, funnel cloud, real quick, let me just get through this. This was in Yucaipa, along the northern part of the Elsinore convergence zone, a funnel cloud, and then landspouts. This landspout I got in 2012, September 11th. It is actually connected to the cloud. This is I don't know, this is like 4,000 to 5,000 feet, the base, and so I got this guy. That was a treasure. And this landspout I got last year in Hellendale on August 18th, and I didn't even expect it. I looked over the freeway and I said, "Holy crap, what's that?" And it ended up being, and the storm ended up being tornado warning. So anyway, I'll just wrap it up real quick. Just some information if you want to follow me. I got so much stuff. It would take me hours to share everything, but I got YouTube. It's actually called SWSWS. So TV and weather, Severe Studios, I stream. My Twitter is @Will_Wilkins. My Facebook is just my name, Will Wilkins. And my own website is southwestsky.net. I got tons of video, tons of pictures if you want to go look at it. But Mike Olbinski, or the great Olbinski, I can never catch up to you. He's the greatest. So anyway, thank you, Christian, for letting me be here.
Good job, Will.
He also goes by Wildebeest. As you can see why. I mean, this dude just put this together. This is a treat. Thanks again, Will, for speaking. You did a great job. And we're going to go ahead and get Trey Greenwood set up. He's going to be our final speaker. And after that, optional meetup at Santan Brewery if you want to have a beer or two or three or four or five. Kidding.
Are you the only one in here like beer or what?
It's on the house.